All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to the first episode of 2025, at least for most of you anyway, of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you, as always, for watching and for listening, for following, subscribing. I appreciate it very, very much. I also appreciate today's sponsor, Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road, Lackawanna, just minutes down the road from Highmark Stadium. If you happen to be in that area, check them out. A great place to go hang out, eat, drink, and be merry. All right, like I said, for most people, we're actually recording this on New Year's Eve. It will be up on the YouTube side anyway, late New Year's Eve. So there might be a few people who see this technically before 2025. But for the masses, for most people, this will be our first episode of 2025. And as usual now, I am joined for my midweek chat with Matt Warren from SB Nation. How you doing, buddy? Happy, well, you know, it is not New Year's yet, so I can wish this to you. Happy New Year, man. How you doing?
Happy New Year to you. 2025. Hope it brings everything that you want it to.
Probably not. Let's just I have to keep my expectations realistic here, so I'll say probably not. Let me ask you this, and we're going to talk plenty of Buffalo Bills. In fact, we were just chatting for a few minutes before we went on the year here. Got a couple of things that I want to get to, and I spend too much time on this show worrying about the very small minority of people that will be within 3 minutes. Who gives a shit? What else you got to say? Get to the Bills. Well, we are going to get to the Bills. We're going to talk plenty of Buffalo Bills. I got a handful of topics I want to ask you about. I want to talk about who you think is going to end up in the Pro Bowl for the Bills. We'll find that out soon enough. Some other Bill stuff. So plenty of Bills talk coming up here on the first episode of 2025. But again, it's New Year's Eve as we tape this. Are you a New Year's resolution type guy, like at all? And if so, do you have any? Or any you're willing to share?
Right. No, resolution's probably the wrong way to say it. It's more goals, like, you know, my goals for 2025. Like I set reading goals and, like, you know, financial goals. Like I set like different goals in different parts of my life, family goals, things like that. I will say that the book that I really love, and I have my copy here, is Atomic Habits.
Put it up on the screen. I'm going to put it up on the full screen if you happen to be watching.
My Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a really popular book this time of year. One of the best selling, I mean, I hate to use the term self-help books, but, you know, it's one of the best selling self-help books of all time. Just, it's a really great thing if you're struggling with, you know, whether getting tasks done or organizing yourself or, you know, forgetting things a lot. I tend to get distracted by things very easily. And so some of the stuff that's in there has really helped me over the years. And so that's my plug for James Clear, Atomic Habits. But I don't really do resolutions. I do goals usually. And so this year I made it my goal to read 12 books. I hit 14. I usually like to do half and half, nonfiction and fiction. And I actually read, like, I think it was 8 nonfiction and 6 fiction. So just, you know, that's the one I tend to share, just because, like, I think it's important to actually, like, disconnect from your phone and read a little bit. Even if you're reading on your phone, it's okay. I'm a podcast listener, as you might know, but so I don't really do the audiobooks. I know some folks really love the audiobooks, but that's the one I like to share.
You know, a lot of people out there, they'll say that resolutions and stuff like that every year are corny and cliche. And I understand that, but I don't agree with that. And whether you call resolutions, goals, whatever you call it, as long as you're writing down or thinking of things that you want to achieve over the course of the next year, to me, that's important. I'm a big person on self-evaluation. I love to reflect. I love to self-evaluate. I like to do it honestly, because a lot of people won't be honest with themselves. You got to be honest with yourselves. Look yourself in the mirror and say, all right, over this past period of time, in this case, the year, you know, what did I do well? What do I need to improve at? What can I do to be the best version of myself, for myself, as well as others, as I could possibly be going forward? And I like to look back and see, you know, how I did, or what goals I set for myself. Did I achieve them? I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going to do it later on. We're recording this before lunchtime on New Year's Eve. I do put up on Facebook, and I put it on Facebook so that, and plus I'm an open book. I don't give a shit on Facebook. But anyway, I like to go back and look, and Facebook memories will have it from a year ago. So I'm going to go back shortly and see how I did. But yeah, I like to set resolutions and goals for myself. Some of them health reasons, some of them just for fun. It's funny you mentioned books. I'm going to be honest with you, Matt. I grew up, and when I was younger, I loved reading. And the internet has changed everything for me. Podcasting obviously has changed everything for me. Just streaming, YouTube, all that stuff. I don't want to say I don't have the time. I don't make the time to read anymore. And one of the things that is actually on my list is to start reading at least one book every month. And I said a non-sports book too. I'm around sports enough. Like, I'd love to start reading. And I'm a big, I like not necessarily fiction stories, but I like self-help books or things that are like biographies or autobiographies, things like that. I'm going to spend some more time reading. This glass right here, I'm going to be honest with you. Sunday night when I was with Joe from Queens, there was plenty of vodka in my Diet Coke. This is just a regular Diet Coke. It's 11 in the morning. But my point was this glass of pop, I got a 2-liter sitting in my fridge. My biggest goal above all else, no more soda or pop or whatever you call it come this year. And this is coming from somebody who smoked cigarettes for 20 years until I got diagnosed with COPD back in 2012. Wow. Okay. So I smoked. I was addicted to smoking. And then after that, I quit and I started vaping, and I was addicted to vaping for a few years, and I quit doing that. And pop is more addicting to me than smoking or vape. I cannot stop drinking pop. I get out of control. I bargain with myself. I negotiate with myself, say, well, you know what? I'll only have pop when I'm having out for dinner somewhere, or I'll only have 1 or 2 glasses a day. It never, ever, ever works. It's just
you go full. Like, is it full? Like, I don't know. Are you diet or are you regular? Like, how are you going here?
I'm going to go on a diet because I'm fat again.
That's what I meant.
I lost 27 pounds earlier this year, and I literally put every single pound back. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Over the last month or two, I've kind of done it on purpose. Like, I just threw in the towel, and I said, you know what? Come January 1st, it's on again. So in the meantime, I've been eating chocolate, ice cream, cake, you name it. It's bad for you. I've been shoving it in my face, putting on the pounds. So kind of like I got a really good starting point to go back. So I've just been really reckless and careless with eating. But with drinking, it's not even just that pop is bad for you, and it is. I mean, it's bad for every human being. I don't care if you're healthy or not. But in my case, having COPD, the carbonation from soda makes it hard. It inflames my lungs a little bit more. So it makes me lose my breath even quicker. So anyway, long story short, my biggest goal is just to stop drinking pop. No more. No, not even a little bit. None. Coffee, water. I'll have, a glass of Crystal Light or something if I want something sweet every now and then. That's my biggest goal. Less social media is another thing that I'm going to be really big on this year. I'm going to put up, I'm going to put up episodes, obviously, do all my promoting stuff. I'll engage with people a little bit here and there, but I spend way too much time on especially on Twitter, man. It's just ridiculous. So much of my life during the week is spent on Twitter because I'm at my desk. I'm working. I also have, my full-time job where I work remotely from home. So I always have access to Twitter. I just spend way too much time on there. And then the other thing, dude, is 2 vacations or ventures to things that I've never done before.
Okay.
Like that's another goal too. I do shit this year. Again, self-evaluation. I went on a cruise literally like I think it was February 2nd or 3rd. It was during the Super Bowl last year because I was on the cruise ship for the Super Bowl. That was scary thinking the Bills might get to the Super Bowl and being on a cruise. But besides that, I didn't do shit, man. I don't even think I left Buffalo over the last 10 and a half months at all, literally. So anyway, if you're watching this, you're listening to this, set goals for yourself. Evaluate, your life and set some goals for yourself. Let me start. We'll kind of transition a little bit here to the Bills. I want to start 2025 on the show with a statement. I'm thinking back about this football team this past year, the Bills. I really hope that fans are enjoying the season and that they're enjoying this era of Buffalo Bills football and that it's not being taken for granted. You have a quarterback right now that is just playing out of his mind. He is one of the most, maybe the most physically gifted quarterback to ever play this football game, and he plays for the team that you cheer for. They've been good every year. They've won the division every year. They're in the playoffs every year. They may or may not go all the way this year. Time will tell. But I really hope that fans are enjoying this football team right now, especially given what the expectations were. You know, if you and I were having these conversations over the summer, I don't think we'd be talking about the 13-3 Bills resting most of their starters in a season finale, having a 2 seed locked up yet again. You kind of agree with that? Like, do you get a sense sometimes that people, I mean, we're all so consumed with winning a Super Bowl, and I get it, and I understand, and so am I. But it's like, do you take enough time to just sit back and just enjoy the brand of football, the entertainment that you are getting as a Bills fan every week? You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. And I think this comes up for me most when I'm like critical of something that the Bills do, specifically Sean McDermott. And like, I'll say something like, oh man, he screwed this up. And everyone's like, you should just enjoy it. Like, they're really good. I'm like, yeah, they are. Like, I want them to win the Super Bowl. Like, it doesn't take away from my enjoyment when I say they should have done this or they should have done that. Like, I'm still in awe, like of watching specifically Josh Allen and what he's doing as quarterback for the Bills, because like, especially in my role now doing the national stuff, I'm watching a lot of the national games. I see what other teams are going through sometimes. And like, so it gives me that perspective when you're only watching the Bills and you see Josh Allen do a Josh Allen play, you're like, oh, that was fun. But like when you see Josh Allen do a Josh Allen play, like 10 minutes after you watch Geno Smith throw a boneheaded interception or whatever, it's like, oh, this is like really special and wonderful. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. I'm glad you said that.
You know, I was watching the Monday night game, and Brock Purdy's a really good quarterback, okay? At least compared to his peers. He did something. I don't remember the specific play, but he rolled out the wrong way. And I was like, you went the wrong way. Josh wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? And then he threw a really shitty pass, and he got intercepted. Not that Josh Allen doesn't throw interceptions, because he does. Right. He does some dumb things. But I just watched the play unfold, and I'm like, well, you can't do it. If I'm watching Josh Allen, that's not going to be what he does on that play. So, yeah, taking it a little bit sometimes, I think, for granted. And look, I'm a work in progress as well. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm still not 100% over 13 seconds years later, because I feel like the Bills 1,000% were winning the Super Bowl were it not for 13 seconds there. So, yeah, just sit back and enjoy it, which, by the way, coincidentally, we are recording this on New Year's Eve. This is the 7-year anniversary now of the Buffalo Bills breaking the drought. I know that you have some fun memories of that day. I'll tell you, for me, dude, it's one of my favorite days, probably of my adult life. Combination of a few things. A, I lived in Florida, and I was back in Buffalo. And I also remember it was nasty out, snowstorm. I was in Eden or North Collins at a family party. We watched the Bills game, and then it turned into a New Year's Eve party, a family thing, big family affair. So not only did the Bills break the drought, but I got to watch it with probably 25 to 30 members of the family. And this was 17 years. A lot of my little young, baby cousins are 25, 30 years old at the time. They were 8, 10, 11 years old the last time the Bills had made the playoffs. But that sequence of moments where the Bills went from beating Miami to breaking the drought is just, again, it's one that combined with family and New Year's Eve just made for one of my favorite adult New Year's Eves, or just days, period. And I know you have some good memories of that as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the only time I've ever cried during a football game. I mean, and it wasn't even a Bills game; it was the Bengals game. But like, I mean, just the combination of like the cameras showing like Kyle Williams and like just the emotion on his face, how it was like that sudden change. It wasn't like the Bills were up on the Dolphins and then they clinched it by beating the Dolphins. Like the Bengals were down to 4th and 12. Like, I mean, it was so unlikely that they were going to convert, that they were going to score a touchdown, that they were going to win that game. And so it's just like all of it came back like at one specific moment. And like, I just started tearing up. Even now, like rewatching that video of the celebration in the locker room, I tear up every time. And, I was at a New Year's Eve party too, but I was at a friend's New Year's Eve party and they're not Bills fans. And so they had I made them turn on the TV to watch the end of the game. I'm like running down the hallway, like, I've got tears in my eyes. Like, they're like, what the hell's going on with this guy? But, I had obviously was running Buffalo Rumblings at the time, or I was writing for Buffalo Rumblings at the time. And I had the playoff picture pulled up and I had pre-written like 4 different outcomes, like Bills win, advance to the wild card. Bills win, clinch the wild card, which is what happened. Bills lose, all of the things that, were the possibilities. And so I finally got to, publish the one that was the good one and not publish the other ones. And we got to trash those. So that was fun. But, planning for multiple contingencies and being able to use the fun one is always a good thing.
I would do anything to go back and have my phone up and take a video of the family reactions at the time. I'll never forget Tyler Boyd, man. To this day, I'm always going to love Tyler Boyd because of one singular play, and obviously Andy Dalton as well. It was magical. And like I said, man, 17 years. That's what I was talking about earlier, was like appreciate what the Bills are right now, because a lot of young people, man, they didn't. This is all for really young people right now. Them being good is all they know. Kind of like, I don't want to say old, but like middle age or even a little bit younger than that. A lot of people are like, you spent more than half your life. If you're 30 years old, you spent half of your life or more with the Bills not even making the playoffs once. It's just amazing, man.
When I was growing up, like my kids are almost the same age as I was when the Bills were going to the AFC Championship game and then like year after year after year going to the Super Bowl. And so it's just like, I remember when they lost to the Steelers and what was it, like 96 or whatever. I'm like, the Bills can lose in the playoffs? That's a thing? Like, so I was just like very surprised when that happened because I was like 13 and they missed the playoffs the 1 year after the 4 straight Super Bowls. And then they went back into the playoffs the next year. I'm just expecting them to go back to the Super Bowl like an idiot, but whatever.
My son was born in 2002 and they broke the drought in 2017. So 15, he was 15 years old. He literally had never seen the Bills go to the playoffs. My daughter's 4 years older, so she was only 19. So they were 2 years old when she got to witness a playoff game, which obviously she did, and she was goddamn 2 years old. But anyway, yes, you get my whole point. It was a magical moment, and I never want to forget that feeling of that day. And it really, for all the Bills Mafia stuff, you can say good things about it, you can say bad stuff about it. But one thing, that day was it was a uniting day. Like every Bills fan in the world was on top of the world. It was awesome. And like I talked about, not taking it for granted, because you could be like the New York Jets right now. Okay. I'm going to tell you, let me say it this way. I talked to we're going to say a source. Okay. I talked to a source from, how do I say this? Well, I got to be careful. I talked to a source from within the Bills organization. Okay. Who was on the football field this past Sunday. And what you saw during the game, the Jets just looking like the effort wasn't there and mailed in. The Jets mailed that football game in. All right. I've heard from, I say the word source again, players on the Jets that just flat out did not care about that game. They were disinterested. And the second thing started to not go their way, like starting with the sack, when AJ Epinesa sacked Aaron Rodgers in the end zone. From that point out, that was a checked out football team. The effort was not there. Some of this we know kind of publicly too. I mean, Sauce Gardner said that he thinks some guys might be checked out. We just heard DJ Reed, I think it was yesterday, say, yeah, I'm going to free agency. He said that publicly. You know what I mean? Like somebody asked him if he wants to be back next year. Players always say, oh, I'd like to see, I'd like to be back. See how things work out. He's like, nah, man, I'm ready to go to free agency. He pretty much was saying, piss on this team. I want nothing to do with this culture. I don't want to be around it. There were players on that team, I'm telling you, Matt, that, I mean, you always suspect it, but when you hear from people who would know that team was out there just not even competing, by the time it got to be like midway through the third quarter, they just didn't care. They wanted the game to be over with. And I mean, it was obvious on TV, but to hear it firsthand from somebody who would know, let's just say it that way. It's just a disgraceful effort from the Jets on Sunday, and proof that anyone who thinks culture doesn't matter just doesn't get it. The coach matters. The coach matters as much as the players and the organization and the owner and the GM and all the staff. Look no further than the Jets if you don't believe that, dude.
Yeah, and we actually see that in our like page view numbers at sites. Like when there's no hope for the future, like if people come to bitch about the team, if people come to celebrate the team, those are all good. Like if people don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, whether it's a Deshaun Watson contract, Jerry Jones, Woody Johnson, like some of the, like Dan Snyder is the number one that we always talked about with that. Like, and look what happened with the Commanders the first year after Dan Snyder's not there, they go to the playoffs. Like,
right.
So like when we see apathy, that's bad for us. Like, so we're definitely at that point with the Jets. Not talking about Gangrene Nation's numbers or anything like that, but like we're definitely at the apathy point with the Jets, but they get to go through this offseason, maybe get a new quarterback, definitely get a new GM and head coach. So, there's a chance for them to turn it around, but they still have Woody Johnson. And if he's making, decisions based off of Madden ratings, like there's not a whole lot of hope for those Jets going forward.
I don't think, not anytime soon. I don't think there's hope for them. And I got to tell you, I said this on the show with Joe the other day. When the injury, I was locked into the injury report because the Jets have talented players. Okay. They got star players, and all week long, Devontae Adams, questionable. Quentin Williams, questionable. Sauce Gardner, questionable. The guys weren't practicing last week. At 11:30, I didn't even care about the Bills inactives at 11:30. Right. Usually I'm locked in. I'm refreshing. I'm like, who's inactive? Who's inactive? Let me get some thoughts out. I was locked in on the Jets. And when I saw that Adams, Williams, and Sauce Gardner were all playing, I was like, man, maybe this is their Super Bowl. They said, you know what? We'll mail in the finale, but we're going all in. We want to win this football game. And that did not last long. You want to talk about...
Did not go well.
It did not go well. And you want to talk about the difference between these teams. There's something else that I've mentioned previously, but it really stood out and resonated to me was Josh Allen's trying to win an MVP. And there's a lot of people out there that are obsessed with stats. They had the ball at the 1 yard line. I think they're up 26-0. That was an easy tush push Josh touchdown. He could have took it himself. He could have called his own number. He didn't. They handed off to James Cook, and James Cook tied, I believe, Josh Allen from last year, right? For second most all time. They give Cook the touchdown. Then I look at the Jets. It's 33. I take that back. It's 40-0. And Devontae Adams is still in the game trying to get 1,000 yards. You know what I mean? It's just like the difference in personality and culture between those football teams. I thought, to me, maybe you don't think much of that, but I thought that was pretty telling.
But, and then we have Aaron Rodgers, who when it was 26-0 after the Bills scored, that was the James Cook score that made it 26-0. Mm-hmm. As soon as they scored that, Rodgers apparently talked to his coach. We're like, hey, you're taking me out of the game, right? We're down, whatever it was, four scores. And then they get the fumble, and then the Bills. Wait, no, that was the other one. The Keon Coleman. Yeah, they did get the fumble, and it was the Keon Coleman touchdown catch that
made it
ill-advised Josh pass. We'll just say that. But
Tony Romo knew. Tony Romo saw that Keon Coleman was in position. You could tell. He says no because he knew it was coming. He's like, no. That's one of those. Oh, how did that happen? He's like, no, and it happened before Keon even caught the ball. But yeah, you're right. It was an ill-advised pass.
They go up 33-0, and then Rodgers still doesn't want to go back in the game. Then the Bills go up 40-0. Then finally Rodgers sits. But it's you would have to drag Josh Allen out of the game. I recognize that he was benched against the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens fans have been telling me that all freaking week. But he wants to stay in the game. And I'm sure Devontae Adams wanted to stay in the game. I'm not, obviously he was going for 1,000 yards. But when Rodgers is yeah, pull me out of the game. That's just. It just feels a little bit different. I know he's 40 whatever years old. He's an old man. He doesn't want to keep playing when the game's already decided. But it felt different. It really did.
That. You know what I would do if I were the Jets? I think this guy, and again, I'm not going to get it. I say I'm not going to go into a rant about Aaron Rodgers, and every single episode without fail, I go into a rant about Aaron Rodgers. I won't go that far today, but I will say this: given the fact that he has dropped. We'll say Easter eggs about this organization just being so dysfunctional publicly, on the Pat McAfee show, things like that. And by the way, another thing that I thought was really funny was that first drive of the game. It's 3rd and 1. He rolls out. The Bills got burned by that play action. That tight end's wide open, and Aaron Rodgers throws it at his ankles. And then he's looking at him like it's his fault. That should tell you everything you need to know. But anyway, if I'm the Jets and I'm Woody Johnson, I know I'm getting rid of this dude. I know he ain't coming back. I'm going to tell you right now, he took himself basically out of that game. He wanted out of that game. He's at 499 career touchdown passes. If I'm the Jets, you know what? You're a dick to me. I'm going to be a dick back. You're going to stay at 499 career touchdown passes. If you want 500, play another year, go somewhere else. You're not getting 500 on my football team. I'm not. What I'm telling you is this. I'm not playing him in the finale against Miami.
Right.
For that reason, and also, let's look, man, draft position matters as well. Although I will say something, at this point of his career, I actually think the Jets might be better off if Aaron Rodgers didn't play and Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback. I'm truly at that point right now, and it's not even me being a big Taylor stan. And I know he came in, it was 40-0. The Bills had their backups, and of course he looked good in that scenario. By the way, props to the stadium, to the fans for giving Taylor some love there. I like that. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I might start Taylor anyway. And that game might matter for the Bills, by the way, if depending on, who you're looking to face in the playoffs, they could matter.
I want Miami to win that game so very badly, because then we don't have to see the Bengals.
Yeah, we don't have to see the Bengals. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather see Miami than the Broncos too. So, I mean, so it goes one way or the other. If Miami wins, we're definitely not going to see Cincinnati. And if Miami wins and Denver loses, we would see Miami.
I just don't want to see the Bengals. I don't want the 52-50 game. I don't want it.
I feel like I can rewind this back to like week 7 or 8 of the season, and we probably were saying the same shit. So at least you and I have been consistent with that. Before we take a break, I want to have one other kind of Buffalo sports media thing. And then on the other side, I want to get into Matt Milano and some other Bill stuff, because I personally was impressed with Matt Milano. We'll see if you feel the same. But again, New Year's Eve, I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I notice these things because I always have sports media people on the show. AJ works for the Batavia Daily News. He's been on the show before. Good kid, young man, getting started in his career. A little bit surprised. He put out something on Twitter that he's, I don't want to say retiring, but he's moving on from, I can't say retiring. You're literally just getting started with your career professionally. But anyway, he's been working with Alex Brasky, Batavia, and he's covered the Bills this year. They have a podcast together, but he's moving on. And he said he wants to get out of the industry now and pursue a master's degree in something. I'd have to look it up. I apologize for not knowing what it is. But anyway, he wants to continue his education, and he wants to go down a different career path. And I'll tell you, I don't know how you feel about this. I want to give this young man a lot of credit, because you grew up as a Bills fan. And especially if you're interested in media and podcasting and all that stuff, it's your dream to be able to cover the team. And AJ's actually been able to cover the team, like professionally, like get a credential, go to the game, be at press conferences, the locker room, get a chance to interview some guys, things like that. So it's a big achievement, again, if you're a Bills fan. But he pretty much said in his statement that he put out for people that, hey, I want to be a fan again. I want to root for the Bills. And you kind of get away from that when you take this on as a job. And he just wants to watch the games again and root for them with his family and his friends and all that other stuff again, while pursuing his education, getting his master's degree and whatever career path he goes down to. I admire that. Plus, look, I mean, these guys will tell you, and these girls in the media, for most of them, this isn't, you do it as more of a labor of love, I think, than a great living, because for most, not all, but for a lot of these people, you ain't making a great living. I know personally some people work in the media that got to have second jobs to kind of hold it down a little bit too. So I don't know. What quickly before we get to break, you got some thoughts on that? I think that's pretty cool of him.
Well, yeah, I'm in kind of a unique position where he's going into education now. He's getting his master's in childhood education, and I was a teacher for 17 years, and almost the entire time I was teaching, I was at Buffalo Rumblings, and so I was, covering the Bills in one sense as a fan. That's the nice part about Buffalo Rumblings. Like I could still wear the Buffalo Bills hat and like the Buffalo Bills shirts and all that stuff. Yeah. Oftentimes folks would ask if, I would get press credentials or things like that. And there were times when I got press credentials to go to training camp or, events at the stadium. And I think especially after Derek Boyko became the head of media, there's probably times I could have gotten press passes to games or, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like the draft days, all that stuff. But I didn't necessarily want to be in the press box. Like I wanted to have, a beer during the game. I wanted to, celebrate when Tyler Boyd scores a touchdown or, whatever. I wanted to be able to be happy. And if you cheer in the press box, that's a big no-no. And if you wear Bills gear to the press box, it's a big no-no. And Joe Biscaglia, I always loved him for it. When he would cover the Bills as part of the radio network, he would have to wear the Buffalo Bills polo shirt for the preseason games and stuff like that too. And I just knew it killed him when he had to go and interview people when he had.
He's not a Bills fan,
right? I know. I could just go. I just knew it killed him when he had to walk into the the media room with wearing the Bills logo. So anyway, I think I've talked to him about that. But so like I can definitely understand like having a full-time job and then like doing Bills content on the side. And there's plenty of folks that do that. I mean, you're one of the folks that does that, like having that kind of hobby thing that like maybe it pays for like the Bills gear that you buy or whatever. Like, I mean, that was always like the goal that I had. I was never really fully intending to get, full-time in this business, but it just kind of happened organically. So I have that unique kind of perspective on exactly what he's going through. And I totally get it. Like, especially like AJ was covering like high school sports and like, that's traditionally the way into sports media. You get hired to cover, the local high school sports, then you get like, this other ancillary beat. And then maybe you cover like a Bills game or a Sabres game, just kind of like as a one-off when someone's sick or, they go on vacation or whatever. And then you kind of work your way up. And there's a lot of ways into the industry now, including sites like Buffalo Rumblings or, Cover One or, wherever you're going to go, where you can kind of work your way up. And that's like the Batavia Daily News, perfect example, great stepping stone for someone trying to break into the industry. And, you can do that full time, or like I said, you can do it like part-time, like I did as kind of a hobby on the side for a very long time. And again, never expecting to get into it full time, but that's where I ended up.
Yeah. Look, like I said, I give him a lot of credit for being young enough to decide, not flounder for the next 10, 15 years doing something. Well, is this really what I want to do? Is this going to provide me with the living that I want to do? Is it taking away my fandom, and how do I feel about that? To be young like he is and come to that conclusion, I do. I give him a lot of credit for that.
Well,
anyway, all right.
And you can look at like Sal Capaccio or Jay Skursky, right? Like their kids go to games without them, because they're on the sideline or in the press box, and their kids are in the stands rooting for the team. And I know it's got to like eat at them that they can't like sit next to those kids and cheer for them. And that's nothing against Jay or Sal, as dads or humans or anything like that. Like I had to leave our Christmas party over the weekend to type up playoff standings. Like it happens. Like, so like, I totally get it, but it just, I know that like there's parts of some of those folks that would love to, be sitting next to their kid cheering.
For sure. All right, let's take a real quick break. Come back on the other side. I got a handful of Bills topics I do want to get into specifically, and also want to talk about what Bills will be or should be in the Pro Bowl. And I got a couple NFL favorite storylines that I want to get to for 2024 as well. All right, first episode 2025, Talking Buffalo. I'm with Matt Warren from SB Nation. Plenty of stuff we've been talking about. You know what? I kind of miss this stuff. I like the conversational aspect of this show. It's nice to not just talk Bills for 60 minutes. But now we're about to talk some Bills. Matt Milano, dude. I watched the game back. I watched the All-22. I thought Matt Milano looked pretty damn good. His best game by far of the four that he's played in this year. Was not perfect. He whiffed on a couple tackles. One of them, though, man, was Devontae Adams in space. Devontae Adams is going to make 90% of linebackers in space miss like that. So I ain't going to hold that against him whatsoever. Look, he's not all the way back. I don't know that he ever will be 2021, 2022, whatever, Matt Milano again. But I came away from this game, and I was very concerned coming in because he played 3 games, could not play against the Patriots. I'm like, great. The last thing this guy needs is to be on the sidelines and not getting all these reps. Very concerned. I went as far last week to say, talked about it. I think Dorian Williams probably should be starting right now if the playoffs were this week over Matt Milano. I did reserve the right to change my mind, and I am. Because I think Matt Milano is at the point now where I know Sean McDermott believes in him, and I think he's sniffing it back little by little. I'm interested. There's not a lot of things I'm interested about on Sunday, but I am interested in if he's going to play. If he don't play, if he don't start, you could take it to the bank. He's going to play 100% of at least the nickel snaps and the base defense snaps in the wild card round. But what did you think about Matt Milano on Sunday? And are you more comfortable now with him probably starting with Terrell Bernard than Dorian Williams at this point?
Like you said, it was his best game since he came back. I thought he looked, fine. I can tell he's like where he's supposed to be all the time. It's just not, I don't know if he's like 100% fully comfortable with like the limitations of the arm brace and like just being back like in that kind of role, the every down role. It was interesting to hear Tony Romo say on the broadcast that he was on a pitch count. Like he used that term pitch count on first and second down only. And I'm just like, I would have thought it was like the opposite. It would only be like third down or something. But I'm not 100% sure if like Romo was going rogue there.
I think Romo was wrong. I don't think he understood. The Bills go to a dive defense and Cam Lewis comes in. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So like, I mean, yeah, I thought he might be going rogue there. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But like, I am comfortable with him. I've been comfortable with him because I figured he would knock off the rust and come back. Interestingly too, I think the Bills, like, they should probably start like working towards maybe a 4-3 look a little bit with Dorian Williams and Matt Milano on the field at the same time.
Yes.
Just in case they might end up playing, I don't know, the Baltimore Ravens in the postseason, and they might have to do that. So just something to think about here going forward. Like we might see Williams and Milano on the field at the same time.
Yeah. And will that be Sunday?
Well,
will that be Sunday? Yeah, I'm torn about whether I want to see more of Matt Milano or not, because I feel like the more you play, the more that rust that you have, the more the worry about that arm, like you said, the hesitation that you may have with the brace, it dissipates a little bit more. But at the same token, you are also risking him re-aggravating it. And you could also say he's enough of a veteran that how much is a meaningless, essentially a preseason game for all intents and purposes on Sunday. How much is that going to help him come the playoffs? Very something definitely to keep an eye on. Another thing that I think is worth keeping an eye on is Damar Hamlin right now. So Damar Hamlin did not play on Sunday. Surprised. Okay. I did not think his injury was going to be something that kept him out for more than a game. And he's missed the last 3 games now so far. I feel like Sean on Monday kind of alluded to if DeMar could go, he wants to see him get some work. How important is it that he gets back and plays this Sunday? Because if he doesn't, you're talking 4 weeks in a row that a first full season first-year starter. He has started previously, but not for any last full season. He's the starter right now, but you miss 4 games, and then your first game back is a playoff game. That's a little that concerns me a little bit. I know there's some people out there who are saying, well, maybe at this point Cole Bishop would be better off being a starter. I don't buy that, and I don't think Sean McDermott buys that either. I don't think he's going to trust a rookie over Damar Hamlin at this point. I do think these reps are valuable that Cole Bishop is getting. I think it's going to help him in the future, but I still think Damar is the starter. How important is it to you that he's able to get back and get some snaps this week so he doesn't go into the playoffs missing 4 straight?
Well, I think it's really important, actually, a lot more important than Milano. Milano's played in a playoff game before, and like Hamlin's played in playoff games, but like you said, first year as a full-time starter, he's the guy at free safety. I don't want him to go from practice rep to playoff speed, like it just, there's a huge gap there. Like we talk about play speed and like the difference between training camp and preseason, regular season, and playoffs. And so playoff speed is not something I want him to like have his first rep be at in a month, so if he gets, a couple series against the Patriots, you called it a glorified preseason game, but the Patriots aren't necessarily going to be playing at preseason speed. They're going to be playing at regular season speed, I would think. And so getting Hamlin some of those reps just so that he doesn't have to jump all the way from practice to playoff speed, I think is really important.
Yeah, me too. 100%. I know most starters aren't and shouldn't play on Sunday, but he's definitely an exception. Another thing that really stood out to me from Sunday's game, I wanted to ask you about, it impressed me, was Von Miller. That's weird. He's only played 14 snaps. Like, what the hell? Only 14 snaps. What are you going to do? Well, he had a really, not only did he have a sack, it's one thing to get a sack. Sometimes there's a coverage sack or the guy holds the ball too long, he moves around, and then bam, you get off your tackle when he starts, scrambling and you bring him down. This was a vintage Von Miller, get off the snap quick. And when you watch the replay, the film, takes one arm, I think it was Carter Warren, and he into oblivion, he knocked him down. And then he finishes instantly on Aaron Rodgers. Like this was the Von Miller that you signed back in, was it 2022 that you need to see. It was a beautiful sack. He also had two nice run stops. really weird. Von Miller, dare I say, has been pretty decent against the run this season, but he took advantage of what I'm saying of those 14 snaps. AJ Epinesa also had a good game. Obviously, Greg Rizzo is Greg Rizzo. And, Smoot's getting out there and doing some things. Do you expect Von Miller to get ramped up more in the playoffs? Like, I don't want to use 14 snaps. I'd be willing to bet he plays more than 14 snaps in the playoffs, regardless of who they're playing. Like, what's a good percentage? Is he a guy? Is he a 50% guy, especially if he's going to play decent against the run? Is he at least a 50% guy come 2 weeks from now?
I mean, that would be ideal. Before he came to Buffalo, he was like an 80% snap guy. Like he played a lot. And I knew he was never going to quite play that much with the Bills, not just because of his age, but like the Bills like to rotate guys. Ed Oliver is really the only defensive lineman that they like let play over 75% of the snaps. And so we just knew that he was going to play like, that 60% of the snaps. And so if he can get up to 50%, like that would be great. Like, I mean, I know he didn't play in the entire fourth quarter against the Jets this week because a lot of the starters didn't. And so like his snap count probably would have been higher, closer to that like 33-40% range. If they, the game was still competitive. So, I mean, I think he's going to end up playing around, 40 to 50% of the game. And then if they need him, like, it's a close game, they need to get after the passer, he would end up playing more than that. But I think he's got to be fully healthy by now, or at least as healthy as he's going to be, like this late in the season. But like, as far as coming back from that injury, like it's been 2 years now, like, let's go.
It's weird because, we talk about Matt Milano, we talk about Von Miller, and they're probably going to be very important parts to the Bills' defensive postseason hopeful run. And on one hand, you're like, well, if these guys play the way they're capable of, this Bills defense may be better in January than it's been at any point of the season because you got, a fully ramped up Matt Milano and you got a very well rested and taken care of. And if there's a silver lining in that idiot getting suspended for 4 games, and he is an idiot for what he did, but I'll say that. But if there's a silver lining in it, he's a lot fresher. His legs are fresh. And I think he had some rust when he came back. He only had 1 sack in his last 8 games coming into this game against the Jets, but he's looked good at times. But anyway, my point is he's rested. He's ramped up. You may get a defense that's going to be heavily bolstered by 2 supreme defenders. At the same token, you're also like, man, I'm really, I'm dependent in some regards on a potentially washed up Matt Milano and a potentially over the hill Von Miller. It's an exciting proposition, but it's also a scary proposition, right?
Well, I mean, I'd rather have them play well than play washed up, but I mean, the Bills have built depth at those positions, and so we've seen that throughout the course of the year. They're okay at those positions. They have replacement level players at those positions. But if we can get like the juice out of those guys, I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. Like if we can get that one like marquee game out of Von Miller to like, stop Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game, I'll take it. Like that's cool. Like if I could get the one Matt Milano interception where he drops into coverage against Lamar Jackson, I'll do that.
It's funny. I just took a peek at my Twitter while we're talking, my tweet deck, and I put up a tweet just before we started recording. And I said, 2024 is over. If you had to use one word only to describe your 2024, what would it be? And I'm seeing a lot of gloomy motherfuckers on Twitter today. Let's just put it that way. All right. Disappointing, mid, routine, normalcy from Bruce Nolan. My guy Tone Potts, who's on the show, hasn't been on a long time, but he's a lifelong friend of mine. And he just said hater. That is so accurate because he really is a hater. That is the perfect 2024 for my guy Tone Potts. Speaking of haters, I love him. He's on this team. You love him because he's on this team. Maybe if he wasn't, you wouldn't. But, dude, Mack Hollins, okay? 2 big catches on that first drive of the game. Big catches on that first drive of the game, too, okay? He had a couple nice blocks, including a block. If you care about Tyrell Shavers getting his first NFL touchdown and that made you get up in your feels, give Quentin Morris and Mack Hollins some love because they made 2 nice blocks on the inside that sprung that. You see the videos, Keon Coleman's touchdown. He's doing Toy Soldier in the end zone. On the Shavers touchdown, he's literally looking back at the defenders and taking turns pointing at them. He has mastered the art. He's mastered the art of celebrating and taunting while a play is still going on. I don't think I've ever seen that from somebody else prior to Mack Hollins. And look, dude, he's been productive. He's got 28 catches for 353 yards this year and 5 touchdowns, which guess what? That leads the team in touchdown receptions this season. So he's been, that Houston game, he was awful. He looked clueless. Ever since that game, a completely different Mack Hollins, an asset to this team. I think a big boost in chemistry and again, character and culture. And I believe in that shit with the Buffalo Bills. I truly do, man. Let's discuss Mack Hollins here for a second. I think he's been, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this was one of Brandon Beane's best offseason moves. And every good football team needs guys like Mack Hollins and like Jordan Phillips. You know, guys are not just about the field. It's the off the field. It's the sideline stuff. And that's a lot of these good, talented teams like the Jets, for an example. They don't have that shit. The Bills do, and he's really paid off, hasn't he?
Absolutely. And it's like you said, it's sometimes it's just the vibes are immaculate. Like sometimes just him being there, doing the toy soldier bit, like all that stuff. It's just fun to have him around. But he's been asked to play meaningful snaps this year, where I think most of us would not have anticipated that from the get-go. I mean, he had 18 catches last year. Like, I mean, I wasn't expecting him to come in and like, I mean, he has a chance to double his reception total from last year. I doubt he's going to double his yardage total from last year, but his success rate is at 58.7%. I mean, when he needs 6 yards, he gets 7. When he, gets that pass in the end zone, he's going to box out his guy and get the reception. He's just, I mean, they're doing everything, or he's doing everything that the Bills are asking of him, and they're asking a lot of him, I think. I don't necessarily want to see him as like the number one receiver. Like we've talked about this over and over again. But for his role on this team, I think he's just so perfectly suited to that.
Let me share a little bit of inside information here on Talking Buffalo here as we're recording this. He's good with me saying, I'm not going to say his source. He's my guy, and it's all positive, so I don't have to hide who it is. I just had to look up a text while you were talking. Wednesday, March 13th at 11 a.m., I texted Damone Harris, who plays for the Atlanta Falcons, Buffalo born and raised, UB kid, very close personal family friend of mine. Anyway, Mack Hollins played with Atlanta last year. I texted him at 11 a.m. on March 13th. I said, what's the 411 on Mack Hollins? Good player, good dude. I know he's pretty solid special teams player and blocker. And he said, great effing dude. I'll just say effing, all right? Good effing player, underused in Atlanta. Pretty much that's it. He was just saying he was underused in Atlanta. Great dude, great player. And I feel like we're seeing that right now with opportunity. Sometimes it's just about the system, and I'll talk about a player in just a minute when it comes to that. It's about the system, and it's about the opportunity. And Mack Hollins, who was underused in Atlanta and playing on a shitty Vegas team for that, he comes to Buffalo, and he's been a welcome part. And he's also, for what it's worth, he's a fan favorite too. He's probably one of the most popular players on this football team right now. Like, Bills Mafia is going to go strong for Brandon Beane to re-sign him, which, by the way, they absolutely should. I mean, you can get a 3 or 4 wide receiver, whatever you want to call him, who's good on special teams with the immaculate vibes, like you said. It would be kind of stupid to not want to have him back. One last question, then I want to get to Pro Bowl stuff real quick. Are you getting tired of, this is a rhetorical question, are you getting tired of the Josh Allen versus Lamar fatigue at this point? I'm going to save any of my thoughts because first of all, we talk about this every week. How can we not? I think I'm going to do an entire show dedicated to why I think Josh Allen should be MVP. And I know you said last week and that it was definitely Josh Allen. So this week I'm just asking you, are you tired of this shit, man? It's tiring. It just is, seeing it every single day, and it's ugly, and it's taken away the joy of just watching 2 great players perform at such a level, ain't it?
Yes. That's the short answer. Yes, I'm very tired of it. I'm tired of Ravensflock coming into my Twitter feed and just absolutely lambasting me. Last week, the day after Christmas, I put out a tweet. CBS or whoever it was, I don't remember what network it was. It was probably NFL Network or Netflix or whatever. Put out an image with like the raw stats for Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Saquon Barkley at the time. And I'm like, man, it's certainly a choice for them to put up these raw numbers when one guy has played an additional game on top of the other guys. And man, Ravens fans were so pissed at me. Like they were coming for me. I'm like, I didn't even like besmirch Lamar Jackson. He's having a better season probably than Josh Allen right now. Like he's a more efficient quarterback. I mean, Josh Allen, if you're asking me to pick one quarterback for, one game, one play, one season, the next 5 seasons, I'm still picking Josh Allen, but his efficiency numbers have been much better this year. Oh, by the way, he has 2 All-Pros, skill position players with him in Mark Andrews and Derrick Henry behind him that defenses have to game plan for. And he has 3 first-round receivers that are playing with him. He should be having better efficiency stats than Josh Allen with, the rebuilding year that the Bills are having, all this other stuff. So like, all I was saying was that they should have at least clarified that Lamar Jackson's played an additional game to Josh Allen at that point. Man, the number of trolls that I got in my feed was absolutely ridiculous. And I responded to all of them because it's fun for me. But like, it definitely took a lot of time, to your point, like getting off social media. Like it took a lot of time last week. And like, but people just don't necessarily understand like efficiency metrics too. And like, by the way, I said like Lamar Jackson's efficiency metrics are better than Josh Allen this year. But again, they should be. And we can. I don't want to rehash it. I'm already up in my feels already. So yes, I'm fatigued by the Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen conversation, so I should not add to it further.
It's intriguing if you look at it objectively and you remove the emotion from it. It's a really good discussion. And again, I really don't think there's a wrong answer.
No,
I'm still looking at these 2024 one-word things. Somebody just said horrific. Jesus, people some had some bad years, I guess. Buffalo Bills fans here in 2024. Come on, man.
Joe Burrow's having a great season. Lamar Jackson's having a great season. Josh Allen's obviously having a great season. Bills fans know that. I mean, and we've even got some of the younger guys having really great seasons. So, I mean, CJ Stroud not, but, I thought he might take that next step. But, I mean, there's just some really great quarterback play going on. And Mahomes obviously is, wins aren't a quarterback stat, but the Chiefs are 15-1, man. Like, I mean, they're a really good team. So, being able to watch those 4 guys play quarterback right now, it's really fun.
It is. And look, we could all have our opinions, whether they're informed or whether they're, biased, whatever you want to call them. But I'll tell you this, whether it's you or I don't give a shit if it's Sal Capaccio, Matt Milano, Joe Biscaglia, whoever. We all have our opinions or Ravens media people as well. The one person or the one thing you should probably put the most stock into is Vegas. Vegas don't miss often, okay? And I went literally just before we went on the air to record this at the latest Vegas odds after this last game, and Josh Allen is at minus 300, and Lamar is at plus like 225 to 250. It's ranging a little bit. So in Vegas, Josh is a pretty clear-cut favorite. Now, at one point, it was up even higher, but still, minus 300 for people, if you like to bet, you probably know these odds pretty well, but minus 300 is a pretty strong bet that Josh is going to win. Now, look, maybe Lamar goes out and has 5 touchdowns on Sunday against Cleveland, and that sways a voter or two, I guess, but I don't see how it would because he's already got the numbers as it is going into this game. So I don't know, Adam's just going to get more fuel for Ravens flock. But yeah, he's the Vegas guy right now, minus 300.
Yeah, but I don't think we can bet on that in New York State because it's voted on and we're not allowed to do that. Thanks, Cuomo.
Well, you can bet on it in most states, and Josh is the favorite, and I don't think Vegas misses very often. So I feel pretty good about Josh winning MVP. Bills Pro Bowlers, real quick. I think they get announced early January. Like it should be sometime in the next week. So maybe by the time we get together next week, we will have this will be official. We'll know. But Bills Pro Bowlers, I'm predicting 4. All right. I'm predicting Josh is a lock. We don't even need to discuss him. I think James Cook is going to be a Pro Bowler. I think Deion Dawkins is going to be a Pro Bowler in part because of his reputation. And I think Teron Johnson is going to be a Pro Bowler because of the big plays. He's had 2 defensive touchdowns, a couple interceptions, and he's an all-pro. I think Benford and Groot are going to get snubbed, though. I don't think they're making the Pro Bowl because of the other guys at the competition. What do you see right now? How many Bills do you predict are going to be in the Pro Bowl?
Well, I just go back and remember that Josh Allen didn't make the Pro Bowl last year, and I'm like, I don't really give a shit anymore. Like, but
Right.
the
Who cares about the Pro Bowl? But just for fun, yes.
I think Josh Allen's going to make it. Like, let's just say Josh Allen's going to be in on the first vote, even though he wasn't last year for some unbeknownst reason. Mm-hmm. James Cook probably, just again, like once you make the Pro Bowl, people tend to keep voting for you, or whether it's, plus he's got whatever, he's second in the league in rushing touchdowns, all that stuff. I think he's got a good case. Once Deion Dawkins makes the Pro Bowl as an offensive lineman, you tend to get that legacy vote. And plus he's everywhere in the media, so people know who he is.
He's made it 3 straight years, I believe, too.
Yes. So like, he's just definitely a guy I think that's going to get in. I'm a little bit more up in the air about Taron Johnson. He's played a ton of snaps. He's really good. I know people game plan for him. He's getting more respect around the league. I know Tony Romo was talking about him over the weekend. So, I mean, he's definitely got a chance to do that. I don't think he's made it before, has he?
Taron? Well, he made the All-Pro last year, but I don't think he was a Pro Bowler. Okay. I don't think he has.
Yeah, I don't think he has either. So, like, I mean, maybe it's like the one thing about, he hasn't. Getting over the hump. Like, he's put in 7 great years as the Buffalo Bills nickel cornerback. Maybe he finally gets like over the hump. The only problem with cornerback is they don't vote on slot cornerback. They vote on cornerback, right? So I think that's right. One of the things that, like, when Peter King named Cole Beasley an All-Pro like a long time ago because he wanted a slot receiver, like they don't vote for like nickel cornerbacks versus outside cornerbacks. So like that might be the only thing working against him. I think Benford's been really good, but it usually takes
he deserves it.
He does, but like we're just talking about this with Taron Johnson right now. He's had 7 years and he's never made a Pro Bowl, but he's been named All-Pro. Like it just takes a while for someone that's that mid to late round pick to get the respect around the league. Even if he does get it from opposing coaches and game planners every single week, it just takes a little bit of time for like especially the fan vote to catch up. So I'm with you. I think that Benford and probably Groot are going to be snubbed. But once Greg Rousseau signs that, massive deal this offseason or next offseason, folks are going to know who he is. They'll start voting for him.
He's going to be probably the richest player in the world ever to not make a Pro Bowl, because I don't think he's making the Pro Bowl this year. What he's got going against him, well, he's got 2 things going against him. 8 sacks, which is just tied for 15th in the AFC. The pros, though, he's got 16 tackles for a loss, which is tied for 5th, and he's got 63 pressures, which is tied for 10th in the entire NFL. What he's got going against him is just so much competition in the AFC, names and great performers, too. You got Myles Garrett, you got TJ Watt, you got Max Crosby. He's hurt, though, ain't he? I don't remember.
Yeah,
anyway,
Crosby's hurt, but he's not. He's still able to be voted for because he was on the ballot when it started. Yeah,
exactly. Will Anderson from Houston, Daniel Hunter from Houston. There's just so many bigger names. Hendrickson. There's big names that are going to probably get. So I'm saying that I think Groot is worthy. I just don't think he is. And in terms of Benford, I would put him on the Pro Bowl before Taron Johnson. To be honest with you, I think Bernard's been one of the better corners, best corners in the entire NFL. But again, it comes down to, and by the way, he's the 4th best graded PFF corner in the NFL this year. I looked that up too before we started recording. This is the competition. You got Patrick Surtain, he's a lock. You got Trent McDuffie, that's a lock. That's 2 right there. I hate Jalen Ramsey, but dude, again, he's a legacy guy, a reputation dude. He's probably going to get in, even though I think Benford is clearly better. Marlon Humphrey's another guy from Baltimore. So there's just a lot of guys, combination of name, performance too, and in some cases reputation, that get in. You can make a case that maybe Deion Dawkins isn't one of the best 3 offensive tackles in the conference, but he probably makes it because of reputation anyway. So it kind of goes both ways here. But yeah, so all right, so we both agree 4. McGovern and Ed Oliver at least deserve, honorable mention to be discussed. They ain't making it, no way. But it'd be remiss if they didn't at least throw out their names. Before we get out of here, real quick, I'm going to save this for next week. Originally, I wanted to talk about some of our favorite NFL, like league-wide storylines. I'm going to put that on the shelf for next week. Plus, the regular season will be over next week. So we'll talk about that. I want to talk about Sam Darnold. I want to talk about the Jets, Miami, their collapses. The golden era, you hit on this. The golden era of the AFC quarterback is really alive right now. Maybe as much as any time as it's been over the last 35, 40 years. End of the show here. Bills Patriots on Sunday. How are you? I mean, we know for the most part how you're going to handle it. And we know Josh Allen's going to come take a snap or two and then get off the field, keep the streak going. I respect that. I also noticed James Cook needs like 19 yards to get to 1,000. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to start and plays the first series or whatever it takes to get him 19 yards, and then you get him off the field. That stuff matters. Maybe it matters in his contract as well. So I can see James Cook starting this game just to get 19 yards. Who's your inactives? Like, who on this team is not playing, like, no matter what? I kind of threw together my own like depth chart for this game, but who are a few guys that, like, no matter what happens, you are not letting them see the field? And we won't count Josh because, again, he's just going to hand the ball off.
Right.
And that's a wrap. But besides that, yeah, who no matter what is not playing? You can't sit everybody. And your dog agrees with you. Yeah, you cannot see everybody. Who are you making sure does not see the field no matter what?
My big ones are, Von Miller, just because of his age and like that kind of stuff. I think he's not going to play at all. Deion Dawkins is the one I'm really like kind of circling right now. If the Buffalo Bills lose Deion Dawkins because of some, someone falls on his leg and breaks his leg in the first series against the Patriots in week 18, I'm going to lose my crap. So like he's one. I think you might end up like, you might have like several of your starting offensive linemen out from the get-go as well, just for that reason. Like maybe Spencer Brown, like he's been a little bit dinged up this year. I'm not sure if he's going to play at all, really. Again, he doesn't need to play. He doesn't need to like work back in or anything like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if Spencer Brown sat for the exact same reason. Daquan Jones is a guy that I don't necessarily want to see playing because like he's older, been a little bit injury prone over the years, like just kind of those types of players. Like, it's not like Daquan Jones is as irreplaceable as say Deion Dawkins is. It's just a matter of like, risk management.
Let me go through real quick here. Then we'll get out of here. Mike White's going to be a call up this week. I'll bet money on that because you need a backup for Mitch Trubisky. I would snap the ball to a running back and run, wildcat every single play before I would risk Josh Allen coming back into the game if something were to happen to Mr. Trubisky. But I could see Mike White getting a call up. Again, Cook until he gets 19 yards and get him out of there. And I think you might see a 20 to 23 carry game from Ray Davis. I want to see as little as Ty Johnson as possible as well. Okay. So let me bang Ray Davis in there all day long. I'll run Reggie Gilliam up the middle if I have to as well. Cooper, Shakir, Shakir, Coleman, Cooper, ain't none of you playing, or Kincaid, none of them. I hope Curtis Samuel could get back this week, not because I have any expectations for him, just so he could take reps. Mack Hollins, Curtis Samuel, and then your second call up, Shavers, Virgil, whoever you call up. There's your three receivers for this game. I agree. Connor McGovern ain't playing a snap either. That's my center. Van Pran Granger could play the whole game. Edwards, you only got 9 linemen, so you got to start one. I think David Edwards will be that guy who probably starts because you got Vandermark, Alec Anderson, Van Granger, and Gable. Is he healthy? I don't know. I think he is though. He's on the roster. So defensive line, no Ed, no Daquan, no Vaughn, no Groot. Like a lot of Dwayne Carter, a lot of Javon Sullivan, a lot of Quentin Jefferson, as much as possible.
Get those guys some oxygen between snaps or like between series. Like they're playing a lot of snaps.
Bernard is in a tracksuit because I'm not even tempted to want to play him. So he's going to be an official inactive for this game.
Okay.
Joe Andreessen get to start, man. Let's see what he can do out there. He might have to play for Spectre if somebody goes down. You might need Joe Andreessen, God forbid.
Spectre's on IR. So
he's on IR. So get Andreessen some work. By the way, he led the Bills with 8 tackles in one quarter, basically. On Sunday. And the corner. I'm not playing either of my corners. You got Elam, you got Ingram, you got Codrington. That's your 3 corners. I'm not risking it. One last thing. So you go into this playoffs, and let's just assume, these starters don't play, and these borderline starters like Hamlin, I think will play. Milano might play a little bit. Samuel, if he's good enough, he'll play. Got to get him out there. Cook for 19 yards. Get him out. The Bills look like they're going to be relatively healthy going into the playoffs. That's huge. No major injuries of anyone of consequence on this football team. That wasn't the case last year. And you had a washed up Von Miller. on the roster, taking up snaps. And in the wild card round, that's where things went south because you lost Bedford and you lost Bernard last year in the wild card round. You can't control that. We don't know how that's going to play out. But that's probably maybe my most second one. The 2 seasons important, but like being healthy right now to me is a huge key for the Bills. And not having to play on Sunday your starters to me is such a big deal, ain't it?
Yeah, I'm glad that they locked up that number 2 seed heading into week 18. I did not want them to have to play all out in week 18 against this Patriots team. So I was very glad to see that, not just because I'm going to do it, not just because like it shows that Josh Allen is better than Lamar Jackson because QB wins are obviously a big deal in the MVP race, but just because like those veterans get to sit and not get injured, to your point. Like, I mean, you see what happened with the Lions this year. Like they've gone through like 20 guys on IR. Like the Bills have had really great injury luck. Maybe it's not injury luck. Let's give some credit to, the Pagulas for building that huge facility and, all the, the cool different ways that they can go get their, their treatments and everything like that. But the Bills have been lucky with injuries really over the last several years. And obviously outside of a couple of those big ones that we've talked about, but for the most part, they've been pretty healthy, and they're pretty healthy now. I'm glad for it.
Well, next week we will have a playoff game to talk about. I cannot wait. Quick prediction. Then we're off the air here. Is it Denver? It certainly feels like it should be Denver. Cincinnati's scaring us more than they should. Like they should have lost that game against Denver, or was it? Yeah, against Denver.
Yeah.
Last week. And then everything is like, well, Tua don't play, although Miami still won the game. And all of a sudden, Richardson don't play, and the Colts lose to the Giants. I'm like, here we go. Here we go. By the way, my wife is going to hate the Indianapolis Colts for the rest of eternity. I got to say this. She was in her fantasy football championship in our league, and she lost by literally 0.6 something. It was like 6-4. 0.64 points she lost by. Guess who her defense was? The Colts against the Giants. They had -4. Even if they had -3 points, which is absolutely freaking awful, she wins the championship. But the Colts gave up
That's horrible.
-4. If one guy had a sack, one more sack or anything, she wins her fantasy football. So she is in hate with the Colts right now. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, oh, here we go. This shit's falling in place for the Bengals. But at the end of the day, Kansas City's not trying to beat Denver, are they? And do you think maybe they know, they're mindful that, hey, if Cincinnati gets in and if they can beat Buffalo, we're going to have to play them. We don't really want to do that. So I kind of feel like they have zero motivation to win this game. They might hate Denver, but not enough to risk people or to, expand the playbook and show something unique in this game. There's no reason for Denver to lose this football game. So kind of feel like it's a Bills-Denver playoff game we'll be talking about next week, right?
I mean, I think so. The last time the Chiefs rested their starters in the final week of the season, they lost. But obviously, we've seen it. Like the Bengals were eliminated from the playoffs. They beat the Ravens to get the Bills into the Super Bowl to get the Bills into the playoffs 7 years ago. The Bills against the Steelers, backups. way back in the day, the Willie Parker game or whatever it was.
Never forget that.
We've seen it happen. But I think it's the Broncos. Yeah.
Well, regardless of who it is, I'll have Matt with me next week, and we'll go over that plenty more. Appreciate you, man. Happy New Year, dude.
Same to you.
All right, guys, I will be back. Brand new episode. I said I didn't want to talk about Josh Allen versus Lamar MVP stuff today. That's because I'm going to be doing all episode pretty much tomorrow. I'll talk to you then.